Picture this. It is 3 o'clock in the morning. The house is a mausoleum of commitments, silent and heavy with the promise of tomorrow's predictability. Every sound, the settling of the foundation, the low hum of the refrigerator, the slow, rhythmic breathing of a partner, is a measurement of domestic permanence. In this profound darkness, a specific male figure is awake, immobile in the sterile light of a handheld screen. He is not working. He is not reading the news. He is staring with a kind of morbid, hypnotic fascination at a projected reality that is fundamentally not his own. He is looking at the curated life of his single friend. Why? Why does the man who possesses the societal trophies of stability, commitment, and maturity engage in this clandestine, self-flagellating ritual? Why does the married man, theoretically anchored to the highest ideals of bourgeois contentment, seek out the phantom echo of a life unlived? This nightly descent into the glowing feed is not mere curiosity. It is a psycho-spiritual emergency. It is the moment when the accumulated weight of societal expectation meets the primal, untamed hunger of the self, and this specific conflict, the war fought in the quiet glow of a 3 a.m. timeline, is precisely the territory mapped by Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche, the philosopher of self-overcoming, of the terrifying demand for authenticity, understood that the most dangerous place a man can find himself is within a comfortable lie. And for many, the comfortable lie is the institution of modern marriage and the domestic routine, especially when viewed through the lens of a relentless, digitally broadcasted alternative. The single friend's social media feed is not just photos, it is a repository of untethered potential. It is the antithesis of the married man's greatest fear, the death of possibility. Tell us now, where are you facing this specific midnight confrontation? Drop your city, affirm your connection to this global struggle for meaning, and let us recognize the universality of this silent, internal conflict. The foundational principle at play here is what Nietzsche termed ressentiment. We often misuse this word to mean simple resentment or bitterness. For Nietzsche, ressentiment is a toxic, deeply rooted psychological condition that develops in the weak, the reactive, and the powerless. It is a spiritual poisoning where a person cannot act out their will or express their true nature. So they retaliate indirectly by devaluing the very thing they lack but secretly desire. The married man, trapped in the perceived cage of his own making, cannot simply abandon his life and embrace the Dionysian chaos of singleness. The cost is too high, legal, financial, emotional. So he develops ressentiment toward the single friend. This resentment manifests in a strange, dualistic obsession. On one hand, he stalks the feed looking for evidence of failure, the solitary dinner, the hint of loneliness, the fleeting nature of superficial connections. He needs the single life to be miserable to justify his own sacrifice. But on the other, deeper hand, he is searching for proof that joy still exists. Outside his walls, proof that the powerful, free expression of the self, the Nietzschean will to power, has not been completely extinguished by his domestic reality. He is both condemning the single friend and living vicariously through him. Nietzsche warns that the man who cannot create his own values will always be beholden to those created by others. And for the modern married man, the social media feed of the single friend becomes an unwilling mirror, reflecting the stark difference between the life that was chosen and the life that was compromised. This leads us directly to Nietzsche's most challenging concept, the distinction between the Übermensch, the ideal of self-mastery and creator of values, and the last man, the passive, comfortable, non-striving product of modern society. The married man stalking the feed at 3 a.m. is the last man, momentarily jolted out of his comfortable stupor. He has chosen comfort over courage, security over self-overcoming. He has achieved what society deems success: the stable job, the mortgage, the family structure. But the cost was his existential vitality. He is safe, but spiritually dead. His single friend, by contrast, seems to embody a certain rough approximation of the Übermensch ideal, or at least the ideal as presented through heavily filtered, optimized digital content. The single man appears unbound by the chains of the predictable. He moves, he risks, he initiates. He creates his own schedule and his own moral boundaries moment by moment. The single man's latest photo from a spontaneous trip to a mountain peak, or the image of him effortlessly flirting with strangers in a bar, is not just documentation of an event, it is a visual sermon on the purity of the will to power. It screams, "I am making my own life, moment to moment." Meanwhile, the married man's life is defined by the pre-made schedule: mortgage payment due dates, carpool times, in-law visits. His will to power has been sublimated into the maintenance of the structure, rather than the creation of the self. And in the quiet solitude of 3 a.m., when the performance of the dutiful husband is temporarily suspended, this disparity becomes unbearable. The specific hypnotic power of the social media timeline lies in its presentation of unburdened time. The single friend is posting late-night adventures, early morning flights, or simply quiet moments of focused, solitary work. These images suggest a profound freedom from the tyranny of the calendar that governs the married man. For the man in the domestic commitment, time is not free. It is a resource already allocated, already mortgaged to shared obligations. The single friend, conversely, seems to possess an infinite reserve of disposable time, the ultimate luxury in Nietzsche's view, because disposable time equals the opportunity for becoming. Nietzsche understood that stagnation is the opposite of life. Life, for him, is constant flux, growth, and the creation of new values. Marriage, in its modern incarnation, often functions as a system designed for stability and preservation, which inevitably prioritizes the past, the vows, the commitments, the shared history, over the future, the radical self-invention. When the married man stares at the single man's feed, he is watching a man who, at least superficially, has defied the gravitational pull of stagnation. He sees a man who has refused to be finalized. This is the psychological trap of the late-night scroll. The married man is seeking existential validation in the reflections of another's life. He wants the single friend to fail, so he feels better about his own compromise. But he also needs the single friend to succeed wildly, because that success proves that the potential for freedom still exists in the world, a freedom he believes he could retrieve if he were not bound. This paradoxical yearning fuels the density of the obsession. He is holding two contradictory truths in his mind. My choice was necessary and good, and I have fundamentally failed myself. The single friend is the visible, undeniable proof of the second truth. The hour of 3 a.m. is crucial here. It is the boundary between the day's duties and the dark night of the soul. During the day, the married man wears the mask of competence, fulfillment, and commitment. He performs the required role. But at 3 a.m., the mask slips. The rational, practical, societal self sleeps, and the fragmented, yearning, subconscious self awakens. This raw self, stripped of its daytime defense mechanisms, is vulnerable to the seductive power of the single friend's carefully curated narrative. It is the hour when the whispers of regret turn into existential shouts. This phenomenon illustrates Nietzsche's critique of modern morality, the morality of the herd. The married man made the choice that was deemed good by his peers, his culture, and his conditioning. He chose the path of duty, responsibility, and social integration. But Nietzsche challenged the notion that something universally accepted as good is actually good for the individual. The choice that makes the herd feel safe often simultaneously crushes the unique spirit of the individual. The single friend, by not conforming to the expected trajectory, has implicitly rejected the herd's definition of value. He is living a life that screams Dionysian, a life affirming chaos, impulse, and the tragic beauty of temporary experience. The married man's life, meanwhile, is purely Apollonian, defined by order, structure, logic, and the comforting illusion of control. And the 3 a.m. scroll is the moment the Apollonian structure cracks, allowing the savage, repressed Dionysian spirit a brief, tormented glimpse of the wild life it was forced to deny. The ultimate terror for the married man is Nietzsche's concept of the eternal recurrence. Imagine, the philosopher demands, that you must live this life. Every pain, every pleasure, every sigh, every quiet night, not just once, but infinite times, exactly as it is now. If the married man embraces his life, he must affirm the eternal recurrence of the mortgage, the routine, the predictable future, and the total extinction of the youthful, wild potential. When he looks at the single friend's timeline, he is asking, could I affirm that life? Could I happily live that alternative infinite times? The fact that he is staring at 3 a.m. is his unspoken answer. He is struggling deeply to affirm the life he has, and he is terrified by the thought of its infinite repetition. The single friend therefore operates as an unwilling symbol of the road not taken, the spiritual debt unpaid, and the existential vitality sacrificed on the altar of stability. His social media feed is not a pleasant diversion. It is a recurring nightmare of choice where every successful outing, every joyful photo, and every demonstration of radical independence is a new nail in the coffin of the married man's repressed self. This ritual is an act of masochistic psychological auditing, forcing the married man to continuously confront the gap between his external performance and his internal desperation. In this context, the specific details of the single friend's feed, the restaurant check-ins, the fitness progress, the successful career moves, all become evidence not of external fortune, but of internal discipline and focus that the married man feels he has lost. Marriage often requires a dispersion of focus. Attention is split between partner, children, career, and household. The single life, especially in its curated digital form, suggests an undivided focus on the self, the kind of egoistic drive necessary for the Nietzschean individual to reach their peak. The married man perceives the single friend as a man still engaged in the glorious battle of becoming, while he himself is stuck in the inertia of being. And the silence of 3 a.m. magnifies the psychological cost of this stagnation. He knows on a level deeper than words that he is not just looking at a friend's timeline. He is looking at a projected version of the man he was supposed to become, a man whose will to power remained untamed and uncompromised. The single friend's freedom, paradoxically, makes the married man feel both suffocated and strangely alive. It provides the only proof he has that authentic life still exists somewhere outside his controlled environment. This foundational understanding, the collision of Nietzschean ressentiment with the will to power trapped in the constraints of the last man, sets the stage for the true crisis. This is only the beginning of the existential breakdown. The simple scroll is merely the symptom of a much larger, darker philosophical malady that is about to explode into the light of day. We must now turn our attention to the corrosive effect of this nocturnal obsession on the man's internal landscape, and how the denial of his true self begins to rot his entire sense of reality. The journey into the psychology of repression has just begun, and the consequences of this late-night obsession are far more devastating than mere jealousy. The hour is 3 a.m. The house is a tomb of comfortable expectations. The mortgage, the job, the marriage itself. They are all monuments to decisions made under the harsh sun of necessity and the soft blanket of social approval. But in the deep, suffocating quiet, there is only the blue glow of a screen held too close to a face that has seen too much compromise. This is the moment of Nietzschean confrontation, not with a deity, not with the world, but with the phantom of the self he refused to become. The married man, entombed in the safety of his choice, is scrolling through the social media feed of his single friend. This is not casual viewing. This is a nightly pilgrimage to the altar of what if, a desperate attempt to find the justification for his own spiritual bankruptcy in the visible public existence of another man. We are watching the engine of ressentiment in action. Friedrich Nietzsche understood that the deepest human cruelty is not enacted against others, but against the potential self that was murdered for convenience. This married man, having achieved what society calls success, looks at the single friend and sees not freedom, but a constant gnawing question mark hanging over his own existence. The single friend posting a spontaneous trip, a dangerous new hobby, or simply an unburdened photo at a bar, is broadcasting a life lived under a fundamentally different moral calculus, a calculus the married man sacrificed on the altar of stability. And this is the core psychological torture. He is simultaneously judging the friend's life as reckless, while desperately desiring the reckless energy it contains. The first, most immediate layer of this nocturnal ritual is the application of slave morality. The married man, representing the herd, defines goodness by what is safe, predictable, and non-threatening to the established order. Marriage is good because it restricts passion. Stability is good because it eliminates risk. The single friend's life, conversely, is defined as bad because it challenges these norms. But the sheer volume of time spent stalking the friend's feed, the precise, desperate attention paid to details that should not matter, betrays the lie. If the single life were truly bad, it would be dismissed entirely. Instead, it is consumed, internalized, and used as a benchmark for misery. The man is searching for failure. He needs the single friend to stumble, to show undeniable proof that the price of freedom is isolation, chaos, or ultimate despair. Every post is scrutinized for signs of loneliness behind the bravado, for financial ruin behind the spontaneous travel, for superficiality beneath the romantic revolving door. If he can find that proof, if the single friend's narrative collapses, then the married man's own life, the life of quiet resignation, is retroactively validated. This perverse mechanism of validation is the heart of ressentiment. It is the inability to create value independently, so one must rely on the failure of others to affirm one's own limited triumph. Before we delve deeper into the terrifying shadow of the last man and the misdirection of the will to power, tell me, from which city are you observing this philosophical descent into the modern male psyche? The weight of this moral bankruptcy becomes clear when we consider the Nietzschean concept of the last man. The last man is the one who blinks, the one who finds a comfortable average and refuses to look beyond it. He has invented happiness as a small, manageable dose of comfort, a warm house, a predictable job, a quiet retirement plan. He fears intensity, he fears struggle, and most importantly, he fears his own untapped potential. The married man at 3 a.m. is the literal embodiment of the last man, peering out from his safe, brightly lit cage at the potential Übermensch, the single friend, who is perhaps foolishly, perhaps brilliantly, still navigating the wilderness. The stalking is an attempt to inject intensity into an otherwise flat, predictable existence. His married life has succeeded in removing all high stakes. There are no dramatic risks, no profound unknowns. The day-to-day existence is smooth, efficient, and spiritually hollow. The single friend's feed, however, is a chaotic Dionysian stream of experience. By scrolling, the married man momentarily participates in that chaos without incurring the actual risk. He experiences the vicarious thrill of the unknown, the brief surge of Dionysian energy, before snapping back to the Apollonian reality of the blue screen light reflecting in his own tired eyes. It is philosophical voyeurism, the most cowardly form of engagement with life. The terrible irony is that the married man achieved stability through the application of his will to power, but that will has now turned inward, stagnating into self-monitoring and social conformity. The will to power, Nietzsche argued, is the fundamental drive for growth, mastery, and overcoming. In the married man's youth, this will was directed toward building a life, acquiring resources, and securing a mate. But once the goal was met, the will to power had nowhere productive to go. It became domesticated. It now manifests in petty struggles for domestic dominance, obsession with mortgage rates, and, most damningly, the meticulous, obsessive monitoring of the one man who chose the opposite path. He can no longer master his own life, so he attempts to master the narrative of his friend's life, controlling it through surveillance and critique. The psychological cost of this behavior is devastating. The married man is not just seeking validation, he is performing an active ritual of self-betrayal. Every late-night scroll is an admission that his core values are failing him. The stability he chose is revealing itself not as strength, but as inertia. He has become defined by his constraints, his obligations, his history, his agreements, while the single friend is still defined by possibility. And possibility is the one resource the married man can never truly reclaim without enacting a chaotic destruction upon his current reality. Consider the burden of the eternal recurrence. Nietzsche posited that we must live our lives in such a way that we would cheerfully will to live this exact life, moment by moment, over and over again, for all eternity. The married man, looking at his stable, predictable, comfortable existence at 3 a.m., cannot say yes to this recurrence. He is filled with the nauseating suspicion that he would rather live the chaotic, risk-filled, possibly lonely life of his single friend than repeat the stifling sameness of his own. The 3 a.m. scrolling is a way of testing the eternal recurrence. If the single friend's life looks worthy of eternal repetition, the married man's own life looks like an eternal condemnation. The married man is trapped in a value system he did not fully create. It was inherited from the societal herd. He is living a moral life of convenience, a life that demands the subjugation of strong individualistic instincts that Nietzsche called the master morality. The master morality creates its own values from strength, defining good as noble, strong, and powerful, and bad as common or weak. The single friend, despite the risks, embodies a residual master morality because he is defining his own path. independent of the herd's approval. The married man's failure lies in his inability to reconcile these two moralities. He is attempting to apply the morality of the slave, judgment, resentment, to a life lived by the principles of the master, self-creation, risk. He wants the safety of the slave, but the freedom of the master. This duality is unsustainable. It rips the soul apart, leaving him paralyzed, unable to change his circumstances, yet unable to accept them fully. This internal conflict manifests in the obsessive comparison, a modern pathology fueled by the constant visibility provided by social media. Nietzsche's philosophy predates Instagram by decades, yet he predicted the exact psychological dynamic of comparison-based misery. When value is externally defined, when your sense of self-worth is determined by how well you measure up against the curated perfection of a social media feed, you are perpetually enslaved. The single friend's feed is a perfectly curated projection of Dionysian freedom, a highlight reel of uncommitted living. The married man knows, intellectually, that the reality is more complex, messier, and potentially much sadder. But at 3 a.m., when the defenses are down and the spirit is weakest, the image of freedom is more potent than the reality of comfort. This descent into midnight self-torture is not merely about envy of freedom. It is a profound philosophical acknowledgement of a missed opportunity for self-overcoming. The highest human goal, according to Nietzsche, is self-overcoming, the continuous process of destroying old limitations and creating new, higher values for oneself. The married man has halted this process. He is settled. He has accepted his limitations as permanent structures rather than temporary challenges. The single friend, through his mere existence, represents the unceasing movement of overcoming, the constant struggle against inertia, the desperate search for dirt, the hope for calamity in the friend's life, is therefore a form of displaced self-destruction. Since the married man cannot destroy the cage he built, he wishes for the destruction of the external symbol of the life he could have had. If the single friend falls, the illusion of freedom dies, and the married man is, for one brief twisted moment, released from the specter of his own failure to act courageously. The depth of this drama lies in the realization that the married man is sacrificing his present peace for a fantasy past. He is trading genuine engagement with his current life, with his wife, his children, his career obligations, for a spectral relationship with a life he never lived, mediated entirely by a digital screen. He is the living embodiment of the famous Nietzschean aphorism that states, "The snake that cannot shed its skin perishes, as do the spirits who are prevented from changing their opinions. They cease to be spirit." The man at 3 a.m. is unable to shed his skin, his safe, mediocre life, and thus his spirit is perishing, one late-night scroll at a time. The irony is that the comfort he sought has become the very thing that prevents his essential spiritual change. He is waiting for external events, the collapse of the single friend, to justify his internal resignation. And this waiting, this non-action, is the ultimate mark of the last man. This obsessive comparison confirms that the man views his life not as a grand, independent narrative, but as a comparative social calculation. His value is derived not from his accomplishments or his unique creation of meaning, but from his position relative to others on the scale of social acceptability and perceived happiness. Nietzsche asks us to become independent sculptors of our own values, but this man is content being a mediocre statue crafted by the herd. The crucial next step is to understand the terrifying implications of this behavior, and how Nietzsche would prescribe the only possible cure. The cure demands not a change in marital status, but a radical transformation of the internal landscape, a redirection of the dormant will to power back toward the self. It requires a willingness to face the profound, uncomfortable truth that one is currently living a lie, regardless of how socially acceptable that lie may be. The profound philosophical darkness of this midnight ritual reveals that true freedom is not found in being single or married, but in willing your own choices, entirely and without external justification. The married man's tragedy is not that he married, but that he stopped willing, stopped creating, and started comparing. There is a sentence that perfectly captures the internal torture of the married man at 3 a.m. The price of comfort is regret. Place this precise phrase in the comments below, letting us know that you understand the true nature. Do the philosophical prison we have explored tonight. Recognizing this truth is the first move toward authentic power. Ensure you subscribe right now and hit the like button joining the community of those who dare to look directly at the difficult truths that govern modern existence. Because we are about to enter the final stage of this analysis, moving from diagnosis to radical prescription. In the next part, we will discuss the frightening path toward self-overcoming, examining the Nietzschean solution, and revealing what the married man must do if he is ever to escape the blue light of comparison and start living a life worthy of the eternal recurrence. Do not miss the third and final chapter where the philosophy of the hammer comes down hard. This is the abyss staring back. The blue light reflects in the dark bedroom, illuminating the face of the man who chose stability, who signed the social contract, who promised fidelity not just to a person, but to a predetermined structure of existence. It is 3 a.m, and he is holding the digital leash of his single friend's curated synthetic freedom. He stares at a photo of a spontaneous weekend trip, an effortless smile, a caption hinting at boundless possibility. This is not curiosity. This is the silent scream of the soul recognizing the ghost of the choice it murdered years ago. This is the moment Friedrich Nietzsche warned us about, the reckoning where the human spirit, shackled by comfortable lies, turns inward and begins to devour itself in ressentiment. We are not here to debate marriage or bachelorhood. We are here to finalize the psychological diagnosis of this nocturnal voyeurism, to understand the final, terrifying conclusion that awaits him at the climax of his own self-deception. Before we descend into the final truth of this existential haunting, tell me this. I know the truth we discuss is often difficult to face alone, but you are part of a community seeking real, painful honesty. In what city are you confronting this darkness right now? Let us know where this quiet rebellion is taking place. The climax of this midnight stalking is the definitive collapse of a deeply ingrained cultural illusion. The married man believes his friend possesses freedom. He sees the single life as the unburdened will, the pure expression of self unconstrained by shared mortgages, carpools, and emotional maintenance. He projects onto the single man the Übermensch energy, the one who says yes to life, who creates his own values. But here is where Nietzsche delivers the final crushing blow. The single friend is often just the last man with better lighting. He is not free. He is merely uncommitted. He has chosen a different, often more subtle form of bondage. The bondage to perpetual option, the tyranny of the unchosen path, the hollow victory of minimizing risk and maximizing immediate gratification. The married man stares at the screen, yearning for a life without consequence, yet fails to see that the consequence of the bachelor life is often a different kind of existential nullity. Nietzsche forces the married man to recognize that the life he resents, his own life, his marriage, is not a cage built by society, but a fortress he willingly constructed. The walls he now views as restrictive are the definitions he used to give his own existence shape and meaning. The resentment he feels toward the single man is merely the outward projection of the absolute, agonizing disappointment he feels toward the man he became when he stopped daring to choose dangerously and instead chose safely. The single man's social media is not a window into paradise. It is a mirror reflecting the married man's own cowardice. He sees the phantom of the self he failed to become, and he hates it. But since he cannot hate himself, he directs the venom toward the perceived beneficiary of his sacrifice, the perpetually single, perpetually available friend. This realization is the true climax, that the burden of the single man, which seems so light at 3 a.m., is the constant obligation to create meaning from scratch. Daily, the single man is continuously proving his worth, his relevance, his desirability, maintaining a performance of vitality that is often as exhausting as the maintenance of a long-term commitment. The married man, conversely, has the deep, terrifying comfort of having already settled the grand question of his existence. His structure is defined. His pain, though acute, is predictable. His stalking, therefore, is an unconscious search for evidence that his friend is miserable too. He needs the single man's freedom to be proven fraudulent, so that his own compromise can be validated. This is the highest form of ressentiment, demanding that others suffer so that our own suffering feels justified. But Nietzsche demands radical honesty. The married man must stop asking, "Why did I choose this?" and start asking, "Do I now affirm this choice eternally?" This is the moment of the eternal recurrence. If the demon came to you at 3 a.m. and told you that you would have to live this night, This precise feeling, this marriage, this specific resentment over and over again for all eternity. Would you drop the phone in horror, or would you fall to your knees and thank the demon for the terrifying beauty of your fate? The stalker is perpetually failing the test of eternal recurrence. He is living a life he secretly wishes to escape, confirming that he is living in bad faith, an eternal no to his own reality. To break the curse of the 3 a.m. scroll, the married man must choose one of two ultimate Nietzschean paths, and he must choose them completely, without the comfort of projection or self-pity. This is the total and aggressive affirmation of the life chosen. He must look at his wife, his children, his routine, and the financial structure he built and declare, I willed this, I choose this, and I choose it again, now and forever. This is not resignation, it is a creative act. It means finding the immense, terrifying freedom within the commitment. It means seeing the obligations not as chains, but as the raw material for his greatest work of art, his character. The moment he truly loves the life he has, the ghost of the single man vanishes, because the single man represents what he no longer needs. His marriage becomes his higher self, his commitment, his expression of will to power. The price of this freedom is absolute responsibility and the death of all comparative fantasy. If he cannot love his fate, he must radically change it. This path demands the immediate, painful deconstruction of the lie. The 3 a.m. stalking must become a catalyst, not a ritual. If the resentment is truly insurmountable, if the marriage has become a prison of mutual mediocrity, then the only honest act is to dismantle the structure and embrace the terrifying chaos of the unknown. This requires immense courage, the willingness to become the destroyer and the creator simultaneously. He must be willing to endure the social cost, the financial ruin, and the emotional devastation, because the alternative, living out his life paralyzed by quiet hatred, is a greater moral failure. This is not about leaving his wife for a life of perpetual dating. It is about leaving the lie so he can finally confront the question of who he is, without the comfortable identity of the married man. The majority of men trapped in the 3 a.m. cycle choose neither path. They oscillate. They resent their freedom yet cling to their chains. They use the single friend's social media as an emotional tourniquet, just enough fantasy to make the reality bearable, but never enough truth to demand a change. This is the existence of the last man, the one who blinks, shrugs, and chooses comfort over confrontation, mediocrity over mastery. They become the epitome of the bad conscience, the internalization of cruelty born from repressed instincts, turning all their aggression against their own spirit. The digital leash is a symbol of this spiritual malaise. The phone itself, glowing in the darkness, represents the technological amplification of the last man's escapism. Technology allows them to be everywhere and nowhere, to live 1,000 imaginary lives while failing to live the one they actually inhabit. It makes the phantom choice perpetually available, thus rendering the real choice perpetually suspect. The 3 a.m. scrolling is a ritualistic wounding. He opens the app, cuts himself with the vision of freedom, and then retreats, bleeding, back into the comfort of his predictable, defined bed. This cycle ensures the eternal recurrence of mediocrity. Nietzsche's ultimate answer to the man stalking social media at 3 a.m. is brutally simple. The moment you realize you are in chains, you are either free to forge them into tools, or free to break them and walk away. What you are not free to do is stand still and eternally complain about the weight. The quiet tyranny of the modern man is that he confuses security with meaning. He built the safe life, the comfortable life, and now he looks over the fortress walls and resents the very definition he created. But meaning is not found in the absence of burden. Meaning is found in the enthusiastic embrace of a chosen burden. The single man's life appears meaningless to the married man precisely because the single man's structure is often too fluid, too easily dismissed. The married man's life is overflowing with defined meaning, children, legacy, commitment, but he has chosen to label that meaning as burden rather than power. The definitive conclusion is that the cure for the 3 a.m. affliction is not external, but internal. It demands the spiritual maturity to accept that every choice involves a massive, necessary sacrifice. When he chose stability, he sacrificed boundless spontaneity. When he chose commitment, he sacrificed perpetual option. The single friend is merely the embodiment of the sacrifice. To heal, the married man must look at his life and declare it to be worth every single sacrifice made, thus transforming sacrifice, into will. He must realize that true strength is not the lack of regret, but the capacity to witness regret and still move forward with conviction. The shadow of the single life is only powerful as long as the married man refuses to own his own fate. Drop the phone. Look at the darkness and recognize that the only person who can grant you freedom is the person staring back from the reflection of the screen. Freedom is terrifying responsibility, and the man who chooses to hide in comfortable resentment is proving every night at 3 a.m. that he is not yet strong enough to be truly free. This final confrontation demands courage, and the path to self-mastery is always paved with painful affirmations. I know the weight of this truth feels heavy, and that is precisely why we must speak it. To solidify this commitment to painful honesty and absolute self-affirmation, I want you to join this community right now, demonstrating that you are ready to move past the projection and into true psychological power. Show your commitment. Scroll down immediately and in the comments, type this one powerful phrase: I affirm my burden. This phrase is your commitment to self-honesty, your declaration that you will no longer live in the lie of resentment. Do not allow this profound realization to dissolve into the morning light. Secure your continued access to these vital truths and become part of this movement toward self-overcoming. Press the like button right now. It confirms the value of confronting these difficult realities. And most importantly, subscribe to this channel. Subscribing ensures that the world of convenience and mediocrity does not reclaim your attention. You are intentionally choosing the path of the Übermensch. And speaking of choosing challenging paths, you are not prepared for the next truth we are unveiling. We will be ripping apart the illusion that modern self-care is anything more than glorified cowardice, a psychological sedative for people who are terrified of genuine struggle. Join us next time as we dissect the most comfortable lie of the 21st century and reveal what happens when the human spirit trades true virtue for the soft tyranny of wellness culture. Do not miss the next deep dive into the brutal landscape of modern psychology. Make sure you are subscribed now.